year 5 of our pest control business. We started in late 2020, and next week is actually starting year 5 for us. And I took that business from 0 to 6 figures, and just kind of document that journey. It's been a long journey, but it goes by very quick, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know who've been tuning in for a while and have your own businesses as well. Shout out to Tropical Fruit Loops tuning in first and foremost. And yeah, I know it takes a few minutes for some people to get into the stream and things of that nature. And if you're going to be tuning in for the first time and you're just new to how we do streams, they're Q&A format. So I take questions directly from the comments, and then usually we have some type of topic as well. And like I said, today's topic is just more so kind of just common questions that I get about starting a pest control business, growing a pest control business. A lot of the questions are more so geared towards people that are just starting. A lot of my viewers are people that are either A, not in the industry at all and looking at getting into the industry, or B, they've been in the industry for maybe a few months to a few years at the most, and they just want some more information about, what do I need to launch my own pest control business. So with that, what I'll do is first is, like I said, I got 5 of the most common questions that I could come up with. I searched through all my YouTube comments from the last 6 to 12 months, as well as my Instagram DMs, Facebook, like I said, just all those platforms, and just kind of tallied up what are the most common questions that we get about, starting the pest control business. So the first one that I get first and foremost, which I was surprised that this one was the most common question, but the most common question was, who do you use for insurance? And then followed up very closely by, can you start a business with a car, or do you have to have a truck? So we'll start with the first one, which, like I said, is pretty close overall. But who do you use for insurance? So we've been using insurance for our pest control business, specifically with Lipka, and that's spelled Lipca. We've been using them for, this is going to be year 4, I believe, year 3 or year 4, something of that nature, to, make sure that we have all the covers that we need. We were using a cheaper company in the past, local company, but there were some things missing from that company that really wouldn't cost that much more to add on. But when we went to add it on with them, it shot the price up a bunch. Where with Lipka, it was a little bit less, to my surprise. And I've heard a lot of people in the past say Lipka gets more expensive after your first year. We haven't really experienced that personally. It's gone up, just like anything else. So, it's one of those things that it just is what it is. Let's see. Trump or Biden? I mean, is that even a question at this point? I mean, obviously, Biden is not even in the race, but yeah, and you're spamming the chat now too, so we're just gonna have to remove you altogether. Let's see, we'll just hide you in general. Anyways, yeah, back to the whole point of the actual stream. Like we said, we use Lipka for our business insurance, and then for commercial insurance, which we do definitely suggest you getting. I went my first, 2 years actually without commercial auto insurance, and then did some digging around, talked to a couple other pest control business owners who are even at a higher level than I am, and they were like, yeah, no, you need to get commercial business insurance commercial auto insurance for your vehicle like yesterday. So got on that, and to my surprise, it wasn't even really much of a difference in terms of overall cost. We did lose our multi-vehicle discount because obviously we had just a personal plan with our 2 or 3 vehicles, and now with doing that, we took off one of those vehicles. So now, and actually we sold another one, so we're down to 1 vehicle on our personal. So that did drive cost up a little bit, but it wasn't enough to really complain about. Like I said, it makes you just sleep better at night knowing that if something crazy were to happen out there on the road, you have the right coverage in place and it's not going to get you burnt. Which that was actually another question on here, so I was kind of doing a 2-for-1 there, because that was another question. Do you need commercial auto insurance when you're first starting out? And I would say absolutely. The moment that you go and slap labels on your pest control truck or any business truck, regardless if it's HVAC, plumbing, anytime you use your vehicle for business, you need to just get commercial auto insurance on it. Like I said, we didn't for our first year or 2, but knowing what I know now, I definitely would have done that day one. And like I said, it's not that much big of a cost difference overall. But like we said, first question about business insurance was LIPCA specifically for pest control businesses. And then let's see here. The next question that was actually number 3 in terms of the most commonly asked question was, what do you need to do to get started in the business? And specifically, of course, the pest control industry. And when I was reading that question, most people that were asking that question, they were phrasing it not so much how do I get started in the industry, but how do I get, certified? How do I get legal to actually start my own business in this industry? And that can be a very loaded and complicated question because it all depends on your state more than anything. Every state is different. I would say most standard that I see across most states when it comes to the pest control industry is either A, you need at least, 1 year of experience in the industry under another company and get your certified applicator license. And then sometimes, depending on the state as well, again, you can have a degree in a related field, entomology, some type of science field, biology, whatever the case may be. But again, it's going to vary state to state. I always suggest when it comes to specific laws, regulations, things of that nature, always start out with your state's Department of Agriculture website. And usually they will have a specific page just telling you what type of experience you need to become a certified applicator. And then if you have any other further questions from there, usually just call up the Department of Agriculture. Most of them are pretty easy to get a hold of. Tropical Fruit Loop says, my rates went down 50% at my second year. Get insurance ASAP. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's actually pretty good. Did you shop around for your insurance? And are you talking about your business insurance or your, the commercial auto insurance? I'm interested to know. I think you're talking about just business insurance, but we'll see which one you said. But yeah, when it comes to anything, laws and regulations, I always say your Department of Agriculture website is your best friend. So always start there. And then if you need some clarification, just give them a call. Most of them are pretty easy to get a hold of over the phone. Sometimes you might have to email them. Again, it just kind of depends state by state. But here in Texas, ours is pretty easy to get a hold of. Let's see. The next common question we get is, can you start, which I was surprised by this question being one of the most common ones. And I actually have a YouTube short about this too that gets quite a bit of traffic that was posted well over a year ago, like 1 or 2 years ago. So I guess it makes sense. That's a pretty common question, being that short is still getting a bunch of views today. But the question is, can you start a pest control business with, just a car like a sedan? Or do you have to have a work truck? And again, same type of answer as the one about, just laws and regulations as for getting starting your own business. It's going to depend state to state. I've heard there's some states, I think California, maybe New York, some of the more regulatory states that are more left-leaning all up in your business. They want you to they have stricter rules about this, where you have to have a clear separation, not just, netting or something of that nature, but straight up separation. Pretty much you have to have a truck. There's a couple SUVs out there that have a similar, truck style separation between the front and the back. But in some states, like we said, they're pretty strict on that. Where then there's other states where as long as you have some type of divider up in between you and the back seat, and no one's sitting in the back seat, anything like that, that's fine. Again, it just depends state to state. So if your state's Department of Agriculture website doesn't have information about that, like I said, I would just call them up for some clarification on that. But yeah, a lot of times in a lot of states, you can start with just a car. I wouldn't suggest it just from an overall, professional standpoint, but I have seen some specifically SUVs. I've seen a couple companies use a Toyota RAV4. I've seen a couple companies use what are the little Nissans, not Nissan Juke, but it may be a Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder, something of that nature. I've seen a couple of companies do that pretty well. But me personally, I would just go with a truck. But again, if you're starting off on a pretty low budget and you're just trying to work with what you got, then work with what you got. And you can always, of course, within a few months and you start gaining customers, you can always scale up, because obviously you're also going to want a rig to be able to do termite treatments. And that's not really possible, unfortunately, with using a car. So hopefully that answers that question as well. Let's see, my auto stayed up, but my business goes down. It's one company I got referred to by another small company. Yeah, feel free to shout them out in the chat too. Like if you have any insurance companies, be it commercial auto or just overall pest control business insurance, feel free to, like I said, just shout it out in the chat if you know any company specifically that you're pretty satisfied with, you've used them for over a year, and you have pretty good rates and coverage, things of that nature. How's it going, Freddie? Hello, said, how have the last 3.5 years of our current state of the union influenced the pest control industry, either positively or negatively? I mean, from an overall regulatory standpoint, I would say neutral. Like, there really hasn't been a whole heck of a lot. I did hear someone in, I think the last live stream we did, that one or the one before, mentioned something about anti-cloggants, or I forget what they're referring to exactly. It sounded like something with rodenticide getting ready to go into effect, but like I said, I still need to actually do more research on that as well. But outside of that, like I said, there really hasn't been a whole heck of a lot. That's going to be, again, more state to state than everything. But in terms of, the overall financial aspect of the country, the union, as you phrased it, of course, that's been negative to a degree. We hear it from customers on a daily basis, even some of the most what you would consider like affluent customers, ones that are definitely bringing home at least 6 figures a year per individual. Just everyone's kind of feeling some of that pain, but you work with what you got, and you don't make any excuses. You just you say, man, it sucks. Hopefully people vote smarter next time, and then just work with what you got, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully that kind of answers that question. If you want to expand on it, feel free to do so. Lots of insurers who don't know the industry will price so high. They don't understand. You need a company familiar. Yeah, no, 100%. That's why we went with Lipka as well. They're another one that they do insurance for more than just pest control, but they are like very, very heavy. Them and Markle are two of the most prominent pest control business insurance providers, and they have a lot of like good information, detail in their plans or in their policies that, one, are easy to understand, but two, like we said, provide you the coverage that you actually need without, paying an arm and a leg. Like I said, I've heard some people have not necessarily negative experiences with Lipka, but they didn't like that their prices were going up. But like we said, a lot of business insurance in general has kind of been going up until about, I'd say, the last year. I think last year mine didn't go up at all. It might have actually went down a little bit. But, like you said, you definitely need to go with a company that's familiar with pest control and not just one of these big, generic, national type of companies, if that makes sense. How's it going, Tim Moore? What is the most effective marketing strategy that helped you get your first 100 regular, I'm guessing by regular you mean like recurring, customers? I would say, in all honesty, I just realized I'm still wearing this shirt and we're getting absolutely blown out. I'm guessing you mean like first recurring customers. For us, back in like 2020, early 2021, correct, yeah. It was 100%, Google local service ads. Now that has changed a lot over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years specifically. Google local service ads have kind of just gone to shit, if I'm going to be honest. Like, they're way overpriced. The lead quality is down. It's not complete, just awful. Like, I would say we still close when it comes to any Google local service calls we get. As long as we are able to answer the phone, we still close about 40% of them. So it's not like any worse than anything else from that standpoint. But compared to 2020 and 2021, when we first launched on Google local services, it was still very new. There weren't a lot of the big guys in there. I remember Terminex wasn't on there. Orkin wasn't on there. One of our biggest companies in Plano, Texas, Allstate Pest Control, they weren't on there. There wasn't a lot of like the big players in it yet, and you were paying anywhere between like, I remember at one point we got what's called a message lead, which if you're not very familiar with the Google local service platform, people can call you or they can do a what's called a message lead. And it's just like anything else, right? You can like send a message to the company and then that company gets charged for the lead. I remember I had a message lead come in for like $7, $8 at one point. Now the cheapest a message lead is like $20 to $30, just to give some perspective. So that alone has gone up, what, approximately 3 to 4x over the last 2 to 4 years. And then the call leads, I mean, oh my gosh, what was the final straw for me with their call leads and just most of their leads in general was when I paid almost $100 for one phone call. Now, again, if you're looking at some of the other platforms and Google Ads versus Google local service ads, then depending on your experience and your level of expertise with Google Ads, it may still be cheaper to pay that $50 to $100 per call on Google local service ads. But again, for us, it was kind of getting to the point where like it was being more expensive to use Google local service ads than Google Ads. So from there, we kind of pivoted to Google Ads. And more so than anything, focusing on local SEO on our website. Those two are what are pretty much carrying us. But if I go back to my first year, over 2 out of 3 of our recurring customers came from Google local service ads. If I were starting today though, we would definitely go all in on a combination of Google ads and SEO specifically. Because like we said, I mean, Google local services, they usually will give you a good intro offer, or not offer, but give you good intro pricing, I guess, if that makes sense, like per lead. They'll push you up the list, make you feel all good about it. And then the moment you I would say around 3 to 6 months, once you've been on the platform 3 to 6 months, if you're not following everything to a T with how they like their businesses to do it in terms of booking leads and not trying to dispute leads, not leaving leads either unbooked or unarchived, then you'll start moving down the list and your cost per leads are gonna just start to go up. So when you start to kind of notice that happen, that's when it's time to abort. But I would definitely utilize it if you're starting with a whole new profile, if that makes sense. How's it going, David Harrison? When you first started your pest control service, was there a way for you to look around your area to see if the pest control market might be too? I don't believe in saturation. I mean, to put in perspective, my area, just within like a 5 to 10 mile radius, if you just go through all the Google listings, just the Google listings alone, not websites, not Facebook pages, not anything else, just the Google listings alone, there's like over 70 of them. I mean, there's multiple pages of them. What you have to do, just like any business at the end of the day, you have to figure out what makes you different from everybody else and then thrive on that. I mean, that's business in general, because in terms of saturation, I mean, any industry that's been around longer than 5 years is going to be quote unquote oversaturated. I hear that term a lot from business owners in our industry that, in all honesty, just I don't want it to sound rude or condescending or anything, but just they don't really know what they're doing. Like they think they're just going to open the LLC up, open up a Facebook page, open up a Yelp page, throw up a quick little Google business profile with stock images, maybe not even a website, or if they do a website, it's like one of those one-page websites where everything is, on one page. And then they wonder why, and then they think that, the calls are just going to start coming in, and then they scratch their head and wonder why no calls are coming in. And it's like, well, you didn't really do anything. Like, you don't have no reputation. Like, what are you doing outside of that to get customers? So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, there are markets that are more saturated than others, and I'm definitely in one of those personally in the Dallas, Texas area. Like I said, just Google pest control companies in Dallas and just scroll down like all the Google listings. Like I said, not even websites, just Google business profile listings. And you'll see, like, I mean, it's crazy the amount of companies. I think I heard actually from one of my Terminex managers at one point that this was way back in like 2018, if I recall, maybe 2019, they said in terms of registered pest control businesses, not necessarily ones that are out trying to, get business or anything like that, but just registered businesses, there was over like, and I never fact checked him or anything, so he may have just been, blowing smoke up our butts, but he said there was like 752 registered pest control companies. So, I mean, that was just like crazy to hear, right? Let me move this guy a little bit so I can lean forward. Let me get a drink real quick too. Catch up on some of these comments. What would you do differently? Well, I almost missed that. I'm glad I scrolled up. What would you do differently if you were starting now to get your first 100? Oh, okay. I kind of hit on that a little bit. I would still, like I said, utilize the Google Business Profile, or not Google. I would utilize that too. The Google Local Services. Like I said, ride that wave. You can get tens, if not hundreds of customers. Like I said, it's a matter of having the foundation in place where you're able to handle all the leads they're going to give you. And again, it depends on your area too. I'm in a very busy area. There was 1 month when we first launched our Google Local Service ads profile that we literally got over 62 calls in 1 month. And like, that was just like a crazy number. We couldn't even handle it. We closed that month, I want to say somewhere around like 30 to 40 customers. Of course, not all of those are recurring customers, but it just gives you some perspective, at least in terms of how much call volume you're going to have. And then, of course, you have, like we said, the Google Business Profile, your website. I would focus heavy. I mean, I always talk about how if I had focused more on the Google Business Profile alone when we first got started, focus on getting my first 50 to 100 reviews as quick as possible, focusing on posting updates, photos, things of that nature, things that Google wants to move you up the list. That alone would have, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine just how many more leads we would have got with the location we were in. But yeah, that's what I would do. I'd focus on Google Local Services, your Google Business Profile, and then, like we said, your website SEO, social media presence. Social media is kind of overrated. That's why you don't hear me talk about it a lot for the pest control industry. Don't get me wrong, like, social media has this place in every industry. Some industry it's better. Like, I have a sister-in-law who has a photography business. Facebook and Instagram are like her bread and butter. Like, for that type of industry where it's very obviously photo, video driven, it makes sense. But for pest control, it's like, I mean, like we said, I mean, we get customers from it, but it's not something that like it's really worth mentioning, if that makes sense. So, like we said, it all intertwines, but those are kind of the three I'd focus on the most. And then, of course, you can't ever underestimate door knocking. I just never had a need to door knock with how quick like we said, that, I mean, literally within 3 months, we had 50 to 60 leads come in. Let's see. It's never too saturated. Most of the big companies are greedy and lazy. Yeah, that too. I mean, because it can be oversaturated, right? But if companies aren't doing a good job, I mean, how many customers do we get who they're like, oh yeah, I was using this company, they started doing bad work, or this company promised this, it ended up being this. Like, we hear that story every single day with, customers coming from other companies. So yeah, I don't mess with the whole saturation stuff. How many customers do you have? In terms of recurring, let me see. Let me pull up my GorillaDesk here really quick. Because obviously that number, I actually fired a couple customers this month too. So that number's probably changed a little bit. And then I think you had a follow-up too. That's exactly what I did. I need help getting customers. Yeah, it's a grind for sure. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Like, if you're starting your business right now, you're starting it in a time that, it's not a Great Depression or anything bad, but you're gonna be priced a little bit cheaper. Even some of the more higher end companies around here that are like very established, they have multiple technicians. I even hear that they're having issues with customers wanting to pay $125 to $150 a quarter, which is not that much, right? So Yeah, it's challenging right now, but it is what it is. Let's see. So it says right now, active customers, with a service like recurring customers, we have 224 at the moment, which most of that is like we said, monthly customers, commercial we've gotten a lot of commercial over the last like 3 months specifically. A lot of our work right now is actually commercial, or not commercial, monthly, where we're going out at least once a month. We have a package for customers called, if you're newer here, you probably never heard of it. We call it our preferred protection plan, where it covers pretty much everything we have to offer: general pest control, mosquito, rodent, pretty much everything, termite protection, all that fun stuff. And we're out at the house pretty much every single month. And we have a lot of customers on that plan. And then, of course, we have some quarterly sprinkled in. I would say quarterly is probably the next highest service that we sell. So I would say it goes preferred protection plan, which, like we said, is a monthly service, followed by a quarterly service, followed by probably tied for third between straight up monthly or bi-monthly, along with like commercial, which is also monthly for us. Unless if, of course, we're running into a German cockroach infestation, then we're going out there every 2 weeks in the beginning. But yeah, like we said, and like I said too, I did fire off some customers this month, which wasn't gonna make like a huge difference or anything. But we've serviced total over 750 customers, 757 total. A lot of those are, like we said, one-time services, people getting ready to sell a house. We have one-time customers that have us come out every year or two. So it'll tell us also that, you have customers without a service. That's a little bit over 500. And like we said, a lot of that is people who will either have us come back once a year. I've had one who hit us up or actually two now, just in the last 2 months, that we went out in like 2021 and they saved our information and called us back. And I love saving that. I love about once every 6 months I'll click on this and export it as a CSV file and then upload it to our like email and text message marketing. And we'll send out like hope everything's been well. We do have a promotion going on right now if you need a service. And we'll usually get a couple to bite on that as well. So if you get customers that just want a one-time service, don't turn it down. I can't tell you how many times we've had customers just want a one-time service, and then a year down the road, we end up converting them to like a quarterly plan, because we're like, hey, this is the second time in the last year or so you've hit us up. You paid us now. Our minimum for a one-time is usually around 189 to 225 with no warranty. So what we'll do is we'll be like, hey, in the last year or so, you've paid us, say, $400 or $450, whatever the case may be. You could have got a whole year of coverage with warranty, just explain to them all the benefits. And, you'd essentially paid the same price. Like, would you rather have that in place? And then, like we said, sometimes it's no, sometimes it's yes. But don't, decline one-time services. I can't believe there's companies that do that, but there's a lot to do. And two, don't just delete their information, because that's crazy. After you service them, like, keep them in there. That way you can export that information into a CSV, which you can then upload to your email, text message marketing, whatever type of platform you use as well. What's going on, Nick? What's up? Do you do mostly residential or commercial? We've been, like I just mentioned, actually, we've been getting a lot more commercial lately. I think it's because of our office that we just started renting out, back in May? Yeah, I think it was May when we started renting it out. And we're starting to really kind of expand our footprint in that area now, with getting reviews, more customers in that area, things of that nature. But right now, I definitely say it's still probably leaning towards 70 in terms of a month-to-month basis, around 70% residential and probably like 30% commercial, but plus or minus 5%. So, 25 to 35% commercial, if that makes sense. Anytime I'm in an area, I'll hang out on the street for a little bit, speak to neighbors. Yeah, it's easier to do that when it's not 100 degrees. Some of these days that we have been having in Texas lately, it's still been pretty warm. But yeah, during like late fall, winter, early spring, we will notice people outside. And yeah, anytime we make eye contact, even if it's just, hey, how's it going? If nothing else, you can give them a business card and, hey, if you ever need anything, I'm not trying to sell you anything, but if you do need anything, that number's mine. You can text me, call me, whatever the case may be. Let's see, good feedback. Yeah, I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the stream too. If you are, do me a favor, smash the thumbs up button. And if you think anyone could benefit from this channel or videos, share it. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, we're like, last I checked, like 8, maybe 10 subscribers away from 3,000. And yeah, it'd be awesome to hit that. So if you're not already subscribed, of course, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, all that good stuff. Does anyone's company spray high up for regular general service, meaning the high up eaves, soffit, peaks? I think I had this question in a stream or maybe 2 streams ago. For the most part, we don't. And again, I believe some labels may even say that, not to do it. But there's some labels that I believe you can, or you can like at least like spot treat these. Again, of course, always read the label before doing that. But, occasionally if we're dealing with a home that's just heavy spiders, occasionally we'll put down a microencapsulated chemical. Another thing is don't do that on a windy day, of course. Have like some type of visor. Like I have like a tinted visor that I like wearing it in general anyways, because it helps just prevent any, type of, you all know how it is. If you've ever sprayed a house, you've ever like came around a corner as you're spraying, and then right as you come around that corner, the wind just boom, just hits you and that spray comes back. No worse feeling than having that happen with a microencapsulated chemical, because any of y'all that know how microencapsulated chemicals are, you don't notice it, but about 3 to 6 hours later, always after you get home, if you got any of that on your face, specifically, I notice up around like the eyes, it will burn like crazy. So I like wearing a visor in general. I mean, unless if I'm not using microencapsulated chemicals, then I don't really worry about it. But of course, always pay attention to the wind. Not a bad idea to at least have a visor on the truck. I always crack up because I can tell, because mine's tinted. So, I mean, it looks, I'll have to put a picture in our group chat or something on Facebook or Discord at some point, because I can just tell by how people look. They have to they double back, like, what the hell is he wearing? Because it's literally like a 0% tint. Like, you can't really see my face at all. It almost looks like some, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a movie, not Terminator. I don't know. Either way, it just looks crazy. But yeah, not a bad idea to have something like that on your truck. But yeah, no, that is becoming more common with some companies. But like we said, for me, for the most part, no. Me personally, no. But if there's a really bad spider issue and the chemical label, says that it's okay to do so, like a spot treatment or something like that, then we'll do it in that case. Let's see. What is your go-to chemical for exterior? I have a couple. Like I love the Lambda products. I can never pronounce the chemical name. It's like Lambda, was it Lambda Siluthrin or something like that? It's like Demand CS, Seismic CS, Lambda Star. There's a bunch of products that have that active ingredient in it. What else is there? Cyanora. Man, I feel like I'm missing one. Lambda 9.7 CS. Like there's a bunch of them. And in all honesty, I just picked the one that's the cheapest. I noticed they tend to kind of alternate month to month which one is the most affordable. Demand CS is never the most affordable. I've never touched Demand CS once. I started out using Seismic, was my introduction to the Lambda products. And then from there, I just, from time to time, I would just Google Lambda product or Lambda 9.7 product, things of that nature. And that was where I started finding some of these other chemicals that contain that same active ingredient in it. And the worst one that I didn't like was cyanura. It has a really, really bad smell, which is weird because they're both made by, I think, Controlled Solutions, if I remember right. Cyanura and Seismic CS, but they're like virtually the same product with a couple of different inactives in it. But cyanura just had just the worst smell of any chemical that I've ever. Is that an exaggeration? I'm trying to think if there's any other chemicals out there that I think are worse. I don't know. Cyanura was pretty bad. Like even at like the lowest, not clean out, but like lowest maintenance rate, it just stunk so bad. So I stopped using that. That's kind of my go-to. And then when it's a home that, you know, is notorious for like ants and things of that nature, where we want to use non-repellents, either we'll switch over, and for that specific house, we'll use like Taurus SC. Of course, you need to make sure you're using it at the right rate, because certain rates you can only apply it like once a year or twice a year. Then there's rates where you can apply it either 3 or 4 times a year. Another non-repellent we'll use is Tempered FX. That's another one. And then, of course, we have like our granular bait. We'll use either Nyban or Entice, pretty much the same damn thing, just whichever one's cheaper that month whenever we go to buy the 40-pound box of it. Trying to think. Inside chemical, or you said exterior, so inside doesn't matter. What else do we use outside? Occasionally dust, of course, if needed, but never really needed for the most part. Yeah, I would say for the most part, that's pretty much what we use for like our general pest control on the outside. Trying to think if there's anything else though. I'll say that's pretty much it. In terms of like general pests, of course, are there special treatments that we'll do for like carpenter ants or whatever? Sure, like different baits that we'll put in, but yeah. How's it going, Mick Blitz? I've had this eyelash in my eye like all afternoon, and I thought I finally got rid of it, and it's like making a comeback. Let's see. What would you rate the pesticide applicator general standards exam on its difficulty? My state seems to base their flipbook study guide on national. What? Let me reread that. Again, I'm reading it with like one eye right now. What would you rate the pesticide applicator? Okay, so the general standards exam. The general is probably the easiest, to be honest. I mean, like you said, if I'm reading your comment right, like you said, it is very heavy on laws and regs, but just study it all is all I can really say. Like, I noticed when I tried to kind of nitpick in terms of my studying, like, oh, this is what other people said are on the test, and this is what other people said on the test. Just trying to like nitpick and not study the books and things of that nature front to back. That was where I messed up, because for those of you that don't know, I actually failed my exams the first time, barely, but I did fail them the first time way back in what, 2018, early 2019. But then I took them the second time, and I only had like 4 or 5 days to study, because that was when I lost my job, and I, you know, scheduled to take the exam Halloween of 2020. I had 4 days to just literally study my ass off. And when I just said, you know what, I'm going to read it, even though I had highlighted everything that was in the test the first time already, I still went through and just front to back, just like read it all, front to back, front to back, front to back. Like each book one time every day, 4 days straight. And then we went from scoring like right around 60% or so to like 90+% across the board on all of them. So I don't know if that really helps your question or not, but that's just my experience with Texas, at least the test down here. Is Google Guarantee the same as LSA? Yeah, I hate that they do it like that. But you're right, it is the same thing, Freddie. So the whole point is you get the little green check mark and it says Google Guarantee on it, and that's literally like I said, you're spot on. It's just if you go to sign up, you'll see that they call it like Google Local Services, get guaranteed by Google or some. Let me look it up actually because it's been a while since I've been on there. If you just type in like Google Local Service ads, you'll see that it literally says advertise your local services. You click on that, and then the first thing that pops up is it says get more clients for your, whatever type of business. You hit get started, and then it says earn your badge of trust, the Google guaranteed. But then if you look in that upper left hand corner, it says Google local service ads. So yeah, like you said, it can be kind of confusing, but if you just kind of click around a little bit, you'll see it's the same thing. How's it going? Says rodent control. What you think, big dog? What about rodent control? I know our rodent control down here has been popping the last 2 to 4 weeks. Like they're trying to get ahead of the old weather change that's coming. How's it going? Music 22. I feel like I know what you did there with that name, but I didn't fall for it. I'm tired. Let me see. I am tired residential pest control trying to get back to commercial. Yeah, residential can definitely be its own little headache. Commercial in terms of like the overall work and like dealing with people, things of that nature, it's definitely a lot less, but each has its positives and negatives for sure. Helps me a lot. Thank you very much. Yeah, no problem. Like I said, hopefully you all are enjoying the stream, getting something out of it. If you are, do me a favor and smash the thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, of course, go ahead and subscribe. If you don't know who I am, of course, I own a pest control company in the Dallas, Texas area, Preferred Pest Management. We've been in business going into year 5 next week. So I just document my entire journey. We go live periodically. I try to, ideally, a couple times a month. It just depends. Some months are busier than others, and I can only go live like once or twice some months. But I try to go live ideally once a week. This is actually our second time in like 4 or 5 days, so that's been cool. But I do these like Q&A live streams, and then I also upload videos for you guys, again, just whenever I have time and I learn something that I think you all could benefit from, or even just a word of encouragement. Like I said, just something that, if nothing else, will just kind of help you stay on track with your own business journey. And we have over 800 or 900 videos at this point that you can look through. I even organize them in like playlists for you guys, though I have noticed some of the playlists kind of overlap. So, but I try to organize it for you guys too, almost kind of like a course format. That way you don't have to go pay some of these random websites $600 a year or whatever the case may be for their little courses and things like that. So yeah, and we're almost at 3,000 subs too. So it'd be awesome if we could hit that this weekend at some point. I saw, like I said, we're like 8 or so away. Let's see. I hate Google. Yeah. Sometimes I do too. Thought on birth control baits. Birth control baits. Also exterior bait program price points. That Discord is fire. Oh, are you talking about our Discord group chat? Yeah, I try to stay in there. I try to stay active in there. Sometimes it's hard to keep up because sometimes y'all get on like your own little conversations, and then I'm like catching up when it's already over. But yeah. Also exterior bait program price points. So that's funny you bring that up. So if like someone calls us and like that's all that they want is, hey, we're seeing some rats outside. I actually just literally, it's in my Apple Notes. Shoot, I can't open that right now. I was literally just pricing that for someone the other day. Like they weren't even like having a rat problem, but they live where there's an alleyway, and they just wanted rodent baiting. Like they were like, we don't want traps in the attic because they didn't need it anyways. But they were like, how much would it cost for just a few rodent boxes? And you just check them every month. And we get that, like I'm sure you guys do, pretty frequently. And usually what we'll do is we'll charge, depending, there's moving variables, how far is the customer from us, do they seem like they're going to be kind of a pain in the butt, right? Like there's obviously moving variables to that too, but for the most part, we'll charge about $50 to $75 per box to get everything set up. And again, this is just exterior rodent baiting only. We usually use contract blocks for the most part, occasionally generation mini blocks. Those are the two most common that we use. And we'll set up anywhere between bare minimum 3 to 5 stations. And then, like we said, we'll check them once a month at first. And then, depending on how the activity level is, we'll stretch it out to as much as like bi-monthly, like every 2 months. But on average, in terms of like I guess if you want to call it like ongoing or follow-up cost, whatever you want to refer to that as, it's a bare minimum of $95 plus tax. Occasionally, if it's someone that has been referred to us or they're really close to, our business, whatever, just ideal situation, occasionally we'll drop that down as low as like $90 plus tax. But for the most part, it's a bare minimum, 90, 95, upwards of, 150 even. So hopefully that kind of answers that question. A guy tried to stop me from leaving his apartment recently. A lady chased me and I got bit by a dog. What the hell? Oh, yeah, some people. I'll tell you, the pest control industry has showed me like the best of humanity and then the worst of humanity. I'm sure you guys can definitely relate. If you can relate to that, give a little reaction. I know on these live streams there's like little reactions you can give. Oh my gosh, man. Like I have stories. We could do another 45 minutes of just, oh my gosh, man, just the stories, I tell you. But yeah, I get what you mean. New York City is done. Yeah, New York on top of that. Oh my gosh. Give me a little drink. How's it going? Is it Majin? Does it matter what season to start the company in? I have some equipment, but I'm just beginning the industry. Or I got some equipment from being in the industry, but not everything. So, I mean, like I said, this upcoming week, we're going into year 5. So, you see that I started my business at the tail end of the quote unquote season, right? And that's one thing I learned very quickly is like, yeah, sure, when it comes to like mosquitoes, ticks, sometimes ants, like obviously down here in Texas, it's like late February, March through September, October is like the busiest season. And I know for some of you guys, it's like April to September, like some are shorter, some are longer. But in terms of like the overall season, it's kind of all year round, depending on what all you're trying to do. Because of course, as like some of that pest is winding down, rodent stuff is back on the rise. So it kind of cancels each other out. I mean, like you said, of course, there's a busy season where it's like everything's going crazy, but there's not necessarily just a straight up bad time. If I were to say there's a bad, just horrible time to start, I would say right after the holidays or right around the holidays, right? Like, I wouldn't start between mid December through like the end of January. If I were to like put an exact time, or even I guess early February, like that 2 months from the second week of December to like the second week of February, forget about it. Like don't even think about it. But and even then, like I said, I mean, if you got enough resources where you can say you did start for some reason right around the holidays, as long as you got a couple months of expenses saved up, you'll be fine. It's just it's not ideal, right? So I would say if you're gonna start between, end of February, March till November. But again, that also depends on where you're at. Some areas up north, it might be start between end of March or April through September. But in terms of like the best time, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't like postpone starting my business either. Like if you already know you're gonna do it, like just do it as long as you have the resources in place. See, when you first started, was it LSA or ad campaigns? I'm asking because I'm going full time on my business. Um, Local service ads was what I used. I did use a little bit of Google Ads to kind of tie me over until we got verified because the Google local service ads, that's another thing. It takes a few days to a week roughly to get verified and actually start showing up on there. So we did use Google Ads temporarily for like a couple of weeks, like kind of juggling both. But that was like I said, when we like very first got started too. So let me see. I know, like I said, we got some other comments too on YouTube just about like common questions that we get. Um, like we said, actually, someone just recently asked, interested into getting into this business. It was Foxhole 1776. Interested in getting into this business. Where do I get the training on what to do prior to starting a business? And we kind of hit on that a little bit earlier. It all depends on your state. I would go to your state Department of Agriculture website and look at the requirements. And if you have any further questions, then just call up your Department of Agriculture and they will answer that for you. Let's see. Chef 313 also said, would you recommend getting a route first before you go full time, starting your pest control business, or building a route as you go? So of course, me personally, I started with 0 customers. I didn't have any customers, didn't steal any customers from Terminex, nothing like that. Did it completely honest, and just straight up work, right? But if you're in a situation where you are able to kind of do it somehow on the side, like say you're in another industry, but you still have your license. I run into people like this all the time where like they get their CA, they quit the boss, or not quit the boss, quit the company that they're working at and go get like a part-time job or just a job in an unrelated field, start their business up immediately, transfer that license over to their new business. Or I guess again, state to state, it depends. Most states you're kind of doing both at the same time, like you're letting the state know what's going on, and they do it all like simultaneously for you. So like I said, if it all lines up for you where you have the ability to start on the side and build up, by all means do that. But sometimes that can hold you back too, because when your back's not up against the wall, like you're not gonna push forward, if that makes sense. I always love that analogy. Like when my back is up against the wall, I have nowhere to go but forward. Like I can't go back any further. Like I don't have nothing else to rely on. So, and again, that's based on my own experience. Like I said from the moment I got in the industry back in like 2017, early 2018, I was like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to start my own business. And then my wife got pregnant with our first kid. Obviously, when you have your first kid, you like automatically start thinking a lot more conservatively. Like you start being a little less aggressive. You take, not necessarily take your foot off the gas, but take your foot off the gas with your ambitions and your dreams. Like you're so focused on like, I got to keep this kid alive, right? Like you got to protect the kid, give the kid food, give the kid a place to live, right? Like all the responsibilities that you start to kind of, your dream can easily kind of be separated from everything temporarily. And I ended up starting my business obviously 2 years after what I originally wanted to. So, had I not lost my job back during COVID in 2020, who knows? I may have like never pulled the trigger at the end of the day. So again, that's just from my experience, my own story, whatever you want to refer to it as. But every situation's different. So take it for what you will. Chef 313. Let me see. Seeing if we had any other questions just in the comments of other videos that were pretty common or anything like that. Let's see. Don't see any other like pretty common questions. I'm back to a year ago now. Like we said, we went over 5 of the most like common questions already. We've been live for almost an hour already. Let's see. How do you drum up side work? I can't really do much in work at my company. I don't, like I said, I never did. I just know some people who are. I know a couple people who, or not a couple, I know one individual personally who is like working 12-hour shifts at a company where they'll work 3 days and have 4 days off, and then like work 4 days and have 3 days off. So they just work around their days off and then their evenings and things of that nature. But again, like I said, everyone's situation is different too. So you have to take that into consideration. Like you said, if you can't really do much and work at your company, then your best bet is to save up at least a bare minimum of like 2 to 6 months worth of expenses. And when I say expenses, I don't mean like, don't include BS. Like include your rent, your food, like your necessities, right? Like what you have to have. Because most people, when they hear 3 to 6 months or 2 to 6 months of expenses, they think like, oh man, like, I live on like $10,000 a month. How it's gonna take me forever to save up 30 to 6. No, 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 no. You got it all wrong. You're cutting all that, like we're talking about your dream. Like we're cutting all that bullshit, unnecessary spending out. Like we're talking rent, insurance, utilities, food, if you have a babysitter or something, like babysitting money, like the necessities, what you have to have, car payment, like only your must. And a lot of times for a lot of people, assuming you don't got debt up to your eyeballs or anything like that, which if you do, get that under control first. For most people, once you get all that under control, you're looking at, I know it depends on your state. Some states are more expensive to live in, but like here in Texas, I literally started my business with less than $10,000 and we made it work. Of course, it helped having a spouse that had a job, but she was only at the time bringing home, I want to say about $3,000 a month. So only enough to pretty much cover our rent and a little bit of groceries. Like I still had to provide like from day one. So um, it all just depends on how bad do you want it? What's your financial situation like? Like we said, if you're up to your eyeballs in debt, get your finances together first and foremost. Because I've said it on this channel multiple times, but I'll say it again. If you don't have your personal finances in order, you will not succeed in business. I don't care what anyone says. You cannot. I think, who was it? A lot of people make fun of him, but I mean, his advice is pretty spot on. Dave Ramsey, I don't know why I forgot his name. He said, you cannot out earn stupidity, which is 100% fact. Like, you will not out earn bad spending habits. You won't out earn your misuse of debt. You won't out earn, a spending problem you have. Like, you will not out earn that. And the same will go if you go to start your business and you're up to your eyeballs in debt. You don't know how to manage a budget, because that's literally, I would say, about 50% of owning a business is managing your budget. I manage my business budget literally every single day to the point that it's like rip my eyes out just how boring and annoying it is. But guess what? It's the life I chose at the end of the day. And I manage my personal budget on top of that. I have two separate budgets, actually three, that I manage. So, and I know that that's kind of like not what you were saying, Majin, or hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, Majin or Majin, but it all relates back at the end of the day, if that makes sense. So, like I said, I can't stress enough to anyone who's even considering, even if it's not just pest control business, like any type of business, if you're looking at taking a leap of faith like this, where you're going into the quote unquote entrepreneur world, the business owner world, have your money in order. If you don't have your money in order, like you don't know how to manage your money, do not start a business. You'd be 100 times better off to just stay at your job, figure out how to manage your money first and foremost. And then once you learn to manage your money, like we said, start saving up some money to have a little emergency fund to fall back on, because there will be slow months. Even when you're like I am, 4 to 5 months in, or 4 to 5 months, 4 to 5 years in, there's gonna be months that just shit happens. Prime example, just over a year and a half ago now, we had a $6,000 vehicle expense pop up. Transmission just went out. Had what they call a slow leak. which means you don't have a clue that your transmission's leaking until you're fucked. So, I woke up one morning, went to drive. We went out of the neighborhood fine, came up to the first stop sign. I went to take off, and my truck literally had like no acceleration, and then just boom, just like went flying forward. And I was like, ooh, obviously something's wrong. 2 hours later, I found out I had to replace the transmission. Needless to say, that truck was gone shortly after that. But, if I didn't have my shit together financially, that could have easily sunk a business that's like just getting started, right? Um, so I can't beat that drum enough. I try to not, be repetitive when it comes to stuff like that, but I mean, you can really fuck your life up in business if you're not at least a little bit financially intelligent. How's it going? Noble Path, or is it Noble? What's the expected profit margin after paying expenses in such business? If you're a one-man show and you're not really advertising, like you're not spending 10 to 30% on marketing, which 30 would be a lot, but let's just say you're kind of just trying to be a one-man show, you can profit as much as 60%, 65%. I've seen people do it. But then if you're trying to grow and you have employees and things of that nature, the average is anywhere between 10 to 30%. Again, it all just depends on how much you're trying to grow, how much are you trying to pay your employees, what benefits do you offer. Are you spending 10% on marketing? Are you spending upwards of 20? Are you spending 5? It just depends. I mean, there's pest control companies who are solely focused on growth who don't even profit at all because they're just literally what we call feeding the beast. Like they're just putting everything back into marketing and growth. Me personally, I don't operate my business like that. I have to provide for my family, and I would never want to own a business that just doesn't profit. It's just not something that I want to do. But I would say the average, like I said, if you're just going to be a one-man show, 45 to 60%. And then if you're actually trying to grow and you're going to have employees and things of that nature, you're looking at, minimum, if you're doing it right, 10%, upwards of, 30, maybe even 35 if you're not advertising a lot. But hopefully that helps answer that question. And then, of course, depends on your state too. Because if you're in one of these communist states, California, something like that, you're going to be a lot less, unfortunately. Exactly. Yeah, tropical Fruit Loops is spot on. If you're going to be a solo, your target should be at least 50%. Like 45, when I say 45, that's because you're usually in a transition period where you're starting to look at going from just a solo operator to hiring a first technician. You're probably investing some more in marketing and events and just, starting to invest more money into your business. If you're just solo, like not trying to hire, you're not really marketing at all, then absolutely like 50% should be the minimum that you're probably shooting for. 45, you're probably, like we said, you're starting to gear more towards probably hiring at some point and growing your business. Like us, ooh, I'm interested to know what we're at. I haven't actually updated my books in like 2 months. I'll have to update that sometime to like get a, let me see where we're at actually, like just so far this year in terms of, like I know this month, for example, after paying all my personal expenses, after paying all of my business expenses, after paying everything, like just to give you perspective in terms of my personal expenses, not including our rent, because like it's hard to explain. Like you get to write off a certain percentage of your rent, so I don't really include it in my personal, though I do send the money from my business checking to my personal as a separate transaction. That way I can track it as rent, and then that way we write off a certain percentage of that. That's a whole bookkeeping thing more than anything, but not including our rent in our personal expenses, just for sake of conversation and keeping it simple. I usually pay us for groceries personal spending, things of that nature, between $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Again, not including rent or utilities. Just food. I'm just including food, a car payment. What else? Personal, just spending, things of that nature. So after that, and then after rent as well, and utilities, and our business expenses, this month we are going to have approximately $6,000 left over at the end of the month. And in terms of what our sales are going to look like for this month, our sales are on pace. I knew that was wrong. I'm in 2025. Our sales for this month, 2024, October, if we don't sell anything the next few days, since we're in the last week of the month, right, we'll be at $18,703. So technically, you want to add that this month it was like $3,500 that I paid myself for personal like expenses. So if we take the 6,000, add the 3,500 back in, that's what, $9,500. And then of course, like we said, if you wanted to, for sake of conversation, that's another $2,000 for personal. So now you're talking what, about 11,000 or so. So that's a pretty good profit margin. I mean, you're talking 11,000, maybe even a little more, plus or minus a few $100, on just under $19,000 in sales, right? So what would that come out to in terms of percentage? I know it's over 50. I don't know if it's quite 55 though. Somewhere around like 50 to 55%. So just to give you, again, some perspective just from my experience. And that's this month. There's other months where obviously, just every month is different, right? But would you consider it unprofessional to start out using your own personal code? That's funny. That was one of the questions that we went over in terms of the most common questions that I had on a document. Me personally, yes. But like I said, if your state allows it and that's all you kind of have to get started, you just do what you got to do. My first 2 weeks after launching my business, I worked out of my personal car. Thankfully, I only had to service like 2 customers before we found a truck because we were just doing that until we found a truck that we wanted. I wasn't going to rush and buy some POS truck, right? Like, I wanted to make sure we got a truck we wanted, and we did. But, man, I'm getting thirsty and I just ran out of water. So I might have to go grab one in a second. But like I said, if you're in a situation where you just can't get a truck right now and your state does allow you to use like an actual car or an SUV with, pretty lean dividers in between, then do what you got to do. But I wouldn't, I think you even mentioned it. I originally wanted to get a work truck, but I don't want to spend all the emergency funds. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't even want to touch my emergency fund for a vehicle. I would instead just go ahead and launch, get your first few customers, try to literally pocket as much of that money as possible and just put it in a separate savings account temporarily for just label it as down payment for a truck fund or something like that, or truck fund, whatever you want to label it as. Is it more lucrative to target commercial or residential? We hit on this a little bit too, but both are lucrative. Commercial is gonna allow you to scale quicker, but residential, it has many pluses as well. It's what you can actually build a route around too. So, I would try to target both. Like I said, right now we're probably somewhere between 60 to 70, maybe even as high as 75, but between 60 to 75% residential, and then the rest commercial. And the commercial has been on the rise the last few months. How's it going, Aaron? Aaron Tucker, hey Griffin, just took the Maryland General Pest exam yesterday. Hopefully it went well. I don't know if in Maryland they notify you right there. Here in Texas, man, I hate how they do it in Texas. You're in a room with people taking bar exams. It's just a general testing room. And when you finish, it lets you know right there on the screen whether you passed all 3 or not. And what it'll do is it'll load for 5 seconds. I don't know if the internet sucks in there or they're playing a sick trick on you or what, but it'll load for like 5 seconds and it'll show you like each one individually. So like you'll see, okay, I passed this one, then I click, and then it's like load, 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 load for like what feels like forever. And then boom, it'll show up either pass or fail. And then you're like, okay, I passed that one. Next one, load, load. Just so over and over for 3 tests. And then finally you're like, oh, okay, cool. I passed them all. Finally, like 2 minutes later, I know I passed them all. But they don't let me know for 2 to 3 weeks. That sucks. It's 2024 and they don't have the technology in place to let you know on the spot. Man, well, good luck. We'll be praying for some good results for you. Hopefully, how'd you feel about it, I guess? Did it feel pretty good? Do you feel like, I mean, I guess if you feel like you bombed it, you don't have to say it. But I'm guessing since you brought it up, you feel pretty good about it. Thank you and will do. Sorry for the repeat. Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, we went over all those like common questions like back towards the beginning of the stream. It usually takes like 3 to 6 minutes for people to start filing into the stream. So I always like kind of start the main topic off at the beginning because that's what most people will watch when they see this after the fact. And then they'll usually stop watching. Like YouTube shows me like it shows like a graph and they call it average view duration, and I'll see it after the fact. Like everybody watches the first few minutes, like the main topic, and then it just kind of starts to just dive off from there. So that's why in the live streams we go over like the main topic at hand, and then from there it's like Q&A from there. Let's see. How do you protect your restaurants from health inspections? I don't know what you mean by protect them, because like in a lot of cities down here, like Plano, for example, if I recall, the restaurants, they get an inspection every month. And there's nothing you can do about it. Like they're gonna have an inspection. The only thing that if you're asking like, what do you do to help them like not be shut down? You keep them relatively pest free. Like you make sure you have glue boards that are labeled with the date that they were sat down. You make, like I said, you just kind of control the pests. That's all we can really do, unfortunately. In terms of preventing them from having the inspection, there's nothing that we can do, unfortunately. We can just do our job and, let the cards fall how they may. Thanks. I feel like I passed, but I know I missed. Oh yeah, no, we all been there. Yeah, ironically, I thought the second time, because like I said, I failed the first time because I just didn't have a sense of urgency. I didn't really study at all. The first time I knew, I was like, there's no way I passed this at all. Like it just felt bad. Second time, I still kind of felt bad. Like I'm naturally kind of, I wouldn't say a negative person. I'm just like very hard on myself and I'm realistic, like that kind of thing. I guess like what negative reinforcement you might call it. But I thought I did a lot worse than I did when I passed. I thought, okay, I know I passed, but it probably barely, right? And then sure enough, I got like 90+% across the board on the CAs. And I was like, cool, let's get this going, right? Do you recommend specializing in mosquito control? If not, do you recommend specializing? No, I recommend doing all of it, right? Like there's pretty much no aspect of the business outside of what WDIs, wood destroying insect inspections or whatever, reports. That's the only part of the business we don't mess with. We do rodent exclusion work, we do rodent baiting, we do termite baiting as well, like the bait stations or whatever, the Trelona, ATBS. We do commercial, we do mosquito, we do tick, we do flea, we do bed bugs. Trying to think if there's anything else I could be missing. We do wildlife, obviously, that kind of goes hand in hand with an exclusion. We do it all. We're not going to leave money on the table at the end of the day. So, if you're not, and that may be what you're actually asking, like, do you recommend becoming like an expert? Obviously you want to know what you're doing. Like if you don't know, like I wouldn't necessarily offer it until you at least gain the knowledge. But of course, a lot of it too, you gain the knowledge through experience, right? So to a degree, you're going to have to kind of just throw yourself out into the fire, maybe offer some slightly cheaper pricing at first just to get the experience. I did that with my first few bed bugs because I literally had zero bed bug experience when I started, but I studied my ass off. I watched probably at least 20 hours of different just videos and listened to podcasts. Like, that's the beauty of this generation, I guess, that we're in, this technology filled generation. You can find information everywhere anymore. And then on top of that, I had some other technicians who did have experience in those fields that I didn't have much experience in. So I relied on them a lot, did a lot of like FaceTiming and things like that. Even brought a guy who I mention on this channel a lot, who he has a pest control business in the Dallas, Texas area as well. And I had him come along with me for my first termite job ever, just to make sure I wasn't going to miss anything, which I didn't. But, you know, it's nice to be able to have someone to lean on there. Gave him some money for the job and things like that for the time. But yeah, you know, to a degree, whatever you don't know, you're going to have to learn some way. So, or like you said, don't offer it at all. I mean, you could do that. But like I said, I personally don't like leaving money on the table. So the only thing that I don't do right now is like insulation, like sucking the insulation out or blowing the new insulation in. That's the only thing that I don't do right now. But once I get a technician hired, we probably will. The reason I don't do it is because it's at least a 2-man show. So, you know, that's something we'll probably add at some point within the next year roughly. But hopefully that kind of answers the question. Awesome. Yeah, like I said, hopefully you guys have been enjoying the stream this evening. It's awesome to see. I saw we had as many as like a dozen of you guys in here so far. If you have been enjoying the stream, do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future live streams that we do. Like I said, I try to go live at least once a week. Ideally, it just depends on my schedule. You know, some weeks are just super busy. You get tens of calls out of nowhere and you're super busy. But then there's other weeks, of course, towards the end of the month where we're kind of caught up and the calls are kind of slowing down a little bit, whatever the case may be. And I have time to do that. But yeah, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you do that. Hit the bell icon, all of that good stuff as always. And by the way, if you're not in our Discord or Facebook groups, they're totally free to join. I don't charge for those groups or anything like that. The Discord is now over 300 members in there. The Facebook group is somewhere around like 130 to 150 last I looked. We started that just a little while back, like a year or two ago, and that's continuing to grow too. Links for those are in my LinkTree, which should be down in the description box down below. And then, of course, there's other helpful links in there for you guys as well. Like there's a free, like a 2-week trial of GorillaDesk Pro that they hooked you guys up with just a few months ago. There's a deal with Open Phone, like if you're not trying to have 2 work phones, but you want to have the work-life balance, they're giving you guys a deal with the affiliate link down below as well. If you're ever looking at like how you can help the channel, it's just using those like referral links and things of that nature. Great stream. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. I always appreciate you guys tuning in. It's awesome to see this community continue to grow just literally every day. It seems like every day I open up my little YouTube creator app and there's like at least 2 to 12 of you that have joined our community every single day. And by the way, lastly, if you know anyone that you think could benefit from the content, feel free to share it with them, all that good stuff. And then if you have any questions after this goes from a live to a video upload, you can drop it down in the comments down below post stream. And other than that, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Hopefully better than my University of Missouri just did at Alabama. And y'all have a good rest of the weekend.